Frog pose is a wonderful hip opener and even a shoulder opener if we add a little touch at the end. We can set up with half frog or full frog, but we'll demonstrate full frog first. So starting with a blanket in the 8th fold, you'll also have 2 blocks on the 2nd height. Open the blanket all the way to a 1/4 fold and then to the half fold so it is nice and wide. Lay it out on the ground and then fold it lengthwise once and then fold it lengthwise again, smoothing out any ridges or bumps. And then from the middle of that blanket, pull the center of that blanket up so the sides of the blanket come back in a little bit, and then pat down the top of the center of the blanket so you have a little fold here. Now the knees go on either side, turning the toes out. Hips are over that fold in the blanket, and then you can come down on your forearms and feel the hip opener here. For a more restorative pose, take 1 block on the 2nd height, placing it underneath of the sternum, and then the forehead can go to the floor or place it on a block on its lowest height. Forearms rest on either side. Now let's make it even more restorative using a bolster. So placing a long rectangular bolster on top of the folded blanket, and then you can always lift the bolster up a little bit more with blocks underneath of it, but sit the hips right on the edge of the bolster, knees out to the side, and lay down the chest onto the bolster. Head can turn to the side or forehead can go onto the floor, whatever's most comfortable. If you'd like to add a shoulder opener, grab 1 block between the hands, elbows are shoulder width apart, and lift that block up overhead. Elbows are resting on the floor, but you'll feel the shoulder opener here. When you're ready to come out, release the block down, slide the hands back, toes can come together, and then pressing the hips back onto the feet to rest in an upward position. Now let's see this set up with the blocks underneath of the bolster so we can see how to set that up. The blocks can go on the lower heights or even on the 2nd height, supporting that bolster to lift the floor up to your torso if the hips are a little less flexible. You'll place the bolster on top of the blocks, and then you want the hip bones, the bony landmarks, to definitely rest on top of the bolster. Then the rest of the torso will lay down, and the forehead can turn to the side so the ear's on the bolster, or can face the bolster. Toes turn out, and you'll notice that the legs are at a 90-degree angle. Okay, let's set up half frog now. So same position with the blanket. Get your blocks ready ahead of you. And then bring 1 knee up onto the blanket. Foot is flexing, 90-degree angle between the upper and lower leg. The other leg is straight back behind you. And then externally rotate the shoulders, placing the upper arms on the blocks. Head rests between them and palms come together. Here we have 1 hip opening and the shoulders also opening. If the shoulder opening feels too intense, you can extend the arms forward or even place the hands back on the upper back to rest or lower the blocks to a lower height. If you want to intensify the stretch, bring the hands back up to point towards the sky and put a block in between the hands. To come out, place the hands back by the chest and using the abdominals, slowly lift up and press back into a child's pose to rest. Let's take the other side to see a different angle. So we'll place the knee on the blanket, a little more support for the inner knee. Other leg is straight back behind you, coming down onto your forearms. And the blocks are there, externally rotating the shoulders, placing the elbows up on the block. Head drops down between them. Palms are together. Now, if the hips are a little less flexible, we'll take some added padding or another bolster and place it underneath the extended leg's hip. This elevates the pelvis and decreases the hip stretch. Once it's in place, it may have to come in at an angle. Come down to the forearms, externally rotate those shoulders, and rest in the pose. Great work!